The topic of today that we will discuss is application of sociological perspectives. That is, today we will discuss the applied part of sociological perspective. In my previous video, I have already discussed about sociological perspective, and I have given examples of the three major perspectives. That is the functionalist perspective, the conflict perspective, and the symbolic interactionism. In today's video, I will assume that you have already watched that video, and I will not go into those details that I have already taught in that video. So my suggestion would be that first you should watch that video, and then you will be able to better comprehend what I am going to teach today. So, the aims of today's lecture are that what we are going to discuss. That is the aims of today's lecture. First, I will be uh, enlisting all major all major sociological perspective. I will enlist them. This will be my first aim. Second, I will be giving you some thumb rules so that you can better comprehend what sociological perspective mean in day-to-day life. So that you, whenever a question comes, say on any topic of current affair, and then you will be able to write on that question in from different perspective, from different point of views. That is, sociological perspective means simply the point of view. Okay, so I will be giving certain thumb rules so that you, even if you don't remember what a sociological perspective say, or what are its postulates or principles, then even then you can write the answer. These thumb rules will help you. Third, I will be taking certain hypothetical examples of questions, and then I will tell you how to apply sociological perspective on that topic. Say, for example, I will be discussing today demonetization. Say a question comes on demonetization, and it's written that write on demonetization, keeping sociological perspective in mind. Say this is the question. Then I will tell you how to write on that, how to uh, view this question, this topic demonetization from different sociological perspective. And the second example that I will be taking today is the impact of COVID-19. Okay, and I will tell you in this video that how we should see COVID-19 from different sociological perspective, how an answer on COVID-19 can be written from different sociological perspective. These two examples will help you to write an answer from sociological perspectives on any topic that will come in your question paper. So I will be giving certain topics for your homework so that you can write and try to view those questions from different sociological perspectives. I will be reviewing those answers in telegram, in my telegram group. Okay, so these will be the aims of today's lecture. So let's begin. First, I will enlist various important sociological perspective that we have in sociology. Various sociological perspective. So, what are these sociological perspective? In my previous video, I mentioned only three major important sociological perspectives, but in fact, we have in reality a number of sociological perspectives. So, these are some of these are first is that you all know Marxist perspective. Second is structural functionalist perspective, or we can simply say that this is functionalist perspective. Structural functionalist perspective. Third is symbolic interactionist perspective. These three I already taught in previous video. Number four is feminist perspective. Number five is sub-altern perspective. Number six, we have queer perspective, and like that we have a number of other perspective. We can have a number of other perspective, but these are some of the important perspectives that I have enlisted. These six perspectives. These three, number one, two, and three, are the main perspectives in sociology. And feminist perspective nowadays is also gaining popularity. So now I will mention you. I will tell you that what are the thumb rules, what these perspectives mean for a common person. One perspective I have left. This is seventh. This is conflict perspective. This Marxist perspective is actually a part of conflict perspective, and feminist perspective is also a part of conflict perspective. In conflict perspective, I will mention critical theorist. See, the conflict can be class conflict. If it's class conflict, then it becomes Marxist perspective. It is If it is gender conflict, then it becomes feminist perspective, and if it is political conflict, then it becomes critical perspective, or we say that critical theorist, uh, like we say Marxists, feminists, and here we say critical theorists or conflict theorists. So now I will give you the thumb rules. First is Marxist perspective. So if a question comes, how will you think from Marxist perspective? So your agenda should be to put you all the blame to put all the blame on capitalists, are in common terms, that is rich people. Put all the Say the question comes on demonetization, so put all the blame for the negative impacts of demonetization on rich people or capitalists, and say that capitalists are benefiting, that is the rich are becoming rich due to this policy. Whatever the topic, you try to justify in your answer that capitalists are being benefited here due to this policy. Only capitalists will become more rich. They will exploit poor more and more. So put all the blame on capitalists, put all the benefits on capitalists, and say that the poor people are being exploited. If you justify this in your answer, then it means that you have given Marxist perspective. Similarly, in feminist perspective, put all the blame on men. Or second is say that men are getting benefits while women are being exploited. So in Marxist perspective, you try to justify that poor are being exploited. In feminist perspective, you say that women are being exploited. Here you say that capitalists are getting benefits, are the capitalist. You put blame on capitalist for any negative effects of the topic, say demonetization or COVID. Here you put blame on men. Here you say that men are being getting more benefits as compared to women. Women are being exploited. In structural functionalist, you talk about two things. First is functions, and second is dysfunctions. So here it is the simplest view. Okay, so functions means that something, the topic, you talk about positives of that topic. Say demonetization, you will write what are the benefits of demonetization for the society, for the larger society. Say say you will say that the impact of COVID on the positive impact of COVID on Indian economy, or demonetize a positive impact of demonetization on Indian economy, on religion. You will talk about bigger things, okay, positive, and in dysfunctions you will talk about negatives. Okay, so one thing more, that when you will be talking about this functionalist perspective, and this is rightist perspective. Okay, when we talk about right and left, then this is right wing. Okay, that is conservative view. This view is conservative or status quoist view. So presently our government is tilted toward the right. Okay, the BJP is tilted toward the right. So any view of if you read in newspaper, certain people have asked me that how we should know that whether an article in the newspaper is written from functionist perspective or Marxist perspective or symbolic interactionist. So my thumb rule is that if the article is supporting the government, say on demonetization, if the article is supporting the government, then you should remember those points of that article, and you can mention those in your answer, saying that it is functionalist perspective, because BJP is tilted toward the right, so it will be a right wing, a conservative perspective, and that will be functionalist perspective. Similarly, if uh, some article is against the government, then that will be left, tilted toward the leftist view, and that will be Marxist perspective. This you can also get on YouTube or other platforms, like in electronic media. For example, a good example is Kanhaiya Kumar. So, if you will listen to the views of Kanhaiya Kumar, then these are the Marxist views. Okay, or the CPI government, Communist Party of India, is also its views will be Marxist views. So if any article from these persons come in the newspaper, then you can say that these are Marxist perspective, and you can note down those points. In feminist perspective, if any news article is saying that women are being exploited, and as compared to men, and women are and men are being compared, and it is said that women are being exploited more than men, are being discriminated more than men, or the impacts of COVID, demonetization, or say any policy of the government are more on women as compared to men, the negative impacts, then you can say that this is feminist perspective. In critical theorist, say if any article is there, ठीक है, first of all I will tell you that what is critical theorists, what critical theorists say. They talk about political conflict. They say that they are against the state. Okay, the state they are against the concept of state. They say that the individual is being exploited by the state. So here the state is being referred to as the exploiter. So they put the blame on the state. They say that the state or the particular government is being benefited. Okay, the political class are getting benefits, and the individual or the citizen, would be much better term to use. So the citizen is being exploited, his rights are being exploited, or the political class is being benefited at the expense of this reason. So this is the view of critical theories. Okay, uh, or they can say that different government political parties are in conflict with one another. So this is the main view of critical theories like Habermas, etc. Then subaltern perspective. So subaltern perspective simply means if you are talking about the impacts on vulnerable classes in the society, then it means that you are viewing the topic from the angle of subaltern perspective. This feminist perspective is also a type of subaltern perspective. So in subaltern perspective, we talk about marginal sections, marginal sections, say agriculture laborers, transgenders, extremely poor people, the slum dwellers, elderly, elderly people, the physically disabled people. Okay, if you talk about these people, then it's your subaltern perspective. If you are saying that COVID-19 has impacted these people disproportionately in negative way, then you are seeing the topic from subaltern perspective. Okay, then it's come then we will talk about symbolic interactionist perspective. Here our center of focus is individual. If we are viewing the impacts on an individual, then it means that we are viewing the topic from the symbolic interactionist perspective. Here we will say that we will talk about the norms in society, the changes in behavior of an individual. Say in demonetization, we will talk about what are the impacts on an individual, what the changes in the behavior of individual have been noted due to demonetization or due to COVID-19. What are the changes in the norms of the people, what norms they are now following. So okay, what is the impact on the mind of an individual. Or if we will talk about first is individual, and second, if we will talk about the concept itself, the term itself. For example, what is COVID, what COVID means for in the individual, how an individual makes sense of COVID, how an individual makes sense of demonetization. Okay, what is gender itself, what is gender, what is difference between gender and sex, what it means to be a crime, what is crime. Okay, how an individual becomes a criminal. These are symbolic interactionists where our point of focus is an individual. Okay, an individual organization or an individual person, etc. So this is symbolic interactionist. uh, in choir, the choir is also a part of subaltern perspective. Here our focus is transgender people, transgender, the choir themselves. Then we have intersex and these marginal classes. Okay, here the main issue is gender. Okay, the whole LGBTQ community. If we talk about the impacts on these people, then it means you are viewing the topic from queer perspective. Okay, so these are some of the perspective, and I have given the thumb rule that how you can read and how you can know that a topic that is coming in current affairs is written from which perspective. So okay, these are the thumb rules, some of the thumb rules. Now I will be applying these perspective on demonetization and COVID-19. You can take any example. Today I will be taking these example because these are also important from UPSC perspective. I mean to say that these were in current affairs, and COVID-19. Right now we are going through this pandemic, and it can come in the exam. And demonetization, people often talk about demonetization, so I will also be dealing with it. Okay, so this will be the main part of this video, where we will learn how to apply, how to see from different perspective. So let's talk about demonetization first. Say the question in UPSC or in any other exam comes that write about demonetization or explain demonetization. Write about demonetization, keeping sociological perspective in mind. Say this is the question, and you want to gather some content to write on it. I will not be writing the answer, I will be telling you how to get the content in your mind, that what you should write. Okay, so uh, let's first talk about, I will be talking about 3 to 4 perspective. So let's first talk about Marxist perspective. Marxist perspective. Now, as I already mentioned, that in Marxist perspective you will put all the blame on capitalists, and you will say that capitalists are getting all the benefits and getting benefits, and you will say that who are being exploited? Poor are being exploited. Poor are being exploited. Now we will apply this perspective on demonetization. Okay, so first of all, for example, you will tell that capitalists are rich or getting benefits due to demonetization. So first point that you will get is that due to demonetization, what happened? The We encountered digitalization. Digitalization, okay, and due to this, organizations like Paytm, okay, Paytm and other e-wallets, phone pay, extra, they have benefited. So you can write in your answer that demonetization, it helped capitalist class. Many new startups were being founded, and they became popular, and due to demonetization. And you can say that there is a nexus between state and capitalists. So you can mention that, okay, because this is not you mentioning. You will put all the, you will say that from a Marxist point of view it can be seen, or Marxists often say about about demonetization. Okay, and you first, this is the point. Okay, second, you can say that second again, you will say that the capitalists are getting benefits. For example, due to demonetization, financial inclusion happened. You all know that people had to open bank accounts. Okay, those people who were not financially included, and they had to open bank accounts and then deposit all the currency of 500 and 1000 rupees notes in their bank accounts. So what happened that Marxist will say that the surplus of, okay, surplus money or surplus savings of poor people were being exploited by capitalist class or by rich people Okay, or you can write by upper class. How? Because the money of the surplus money of poor people were deposited to banks when they were financially included in banks, and these banks then gave this money as loan to capitalists who then invested in their industries for production. So the surplus money of the poor was being used by capitalists for generating profits. So this if you are writing, it means you are writing from a Marxist perspective. Okay, you can gather from newspapers certain data to justify this, or you can simply write a paragraph on this. Now we can also talk about big data. As we all know that when people will open accounts in banks, then their accounts were linked with Aadhaar, and it means that banks had the information about the people, and this information uh, can be used for checking the consumption behavior of the people. And through big data analysis, what can be done is that the profiling of the people can be done, that how what is in demand. People can make a sense of what is being in demand in the market, what people are demanding through profiling or through big data analysis, and then this information can help banks, who own banks, capitalist own banks, the private sector banks, and this information can also be used by organizations to make that product which is in demand, and so the capitalist will earn profits. So this is another point. So these are some of the points on demonetization where capitalists are being are getting benefits. So this is how I applied Marxist perspective. Okay, on demonetization. Similarly, if we talk about functionalist or structural functionalist perspective, structural functionalist perspective. So here, first we will talk about the functions, and I already told you that if the government is a right-wing government or the political party is a right-wing party, then what it is saying in support of a policy, it's actually a functionalist point of view. Here we will talk about the functions of or the positive functions of demonetization. So what are these? First is digitalization, that is the economy became cashless. So cashless economy means that now the people's money is safe, because earlier people when they had cash, then it was already there was already a threat of uh, of uh, uh, of a theft. Okay, uh, but when the money is being deposited in banks, and it comes in the form of in e-wallets, then it's safe, and it's also comfortable because people will not have to go to banks. So this is one of the functions. Second, the counterfeit currency that was there with the terrorists, it was eliminated. So this was also a function. Third is you can say that the terrorist incidents and left wing extremism. These they were there were lesser number of such terrorist attacks or less left wing extremism, so their number came down. Okay, so fourth is financial inclusion. Look, we already talked about financial inclusion and digitalization, but we viewed it from different angle in Marxist perspective. Here, I have viewed it from different angle. We have there we talked about exploitation of the poor, but here we are talking about the positive. A positive of financial inclusion, if means that people will be getting financial product like pensions, subsidies. Okay, the poor people will get pensions, subsidies, insurance products. Okay, and then financial inclusion of say corporations. If the corporations are being financially included or formalization is happening place, so I will take the sixth point for formalization of economy. Formalization of economy, or we can say that corporations. So if the informal corporations, the MSMEs, if they will become formal, then it means that revenue of the state revenue will increase. That is, the taxation will increase, and if there is increase in tax, it means that we are taxing the rich people, because who will give tax? Rich people. And where it will go? It will go into subsidies and pension. And who will benefit? Here poor will benefit. So there is a redistribution of money. Okay, we are taking from rich and giving to the poor due to demonetization. Number seven is the main that the government talk about, black money. So this was an attack on black money. Okay, so when the people they deposited all their money of 500 and 1000, which was in 500 rupee notes and in 1000 rupee notes, then the banks had the detail, or the state had the detail of their money, and whatever the black money the people had, they were caught, or that was eliminated. And the when the people opened their accounts, so all the money that were deposited in the banks, that money now that money can be surveyed. This money will leave back its trail, and it can be tracked. Okay, so money will leave its trail and it can be tracked, so this will be the benefit. Similarly, if we talk about negative of demonetization, then you can talk about the negatives of demonetization, like the people, they suffered suffered because they could not get the cash on time, or the real estate sector that suffered, the informal sector it suffered. So you can talk about that, but I will be talking this part in different perspective when I will talk about feminist perspective, or when I will be talking about symbolic interactionism. So here this was the functionalist perspective. I have talked about simply the first functionalist perspective and not the structural functionalist, because in structural functionalist we also talk about dysfunctions, but in functionalist perspective we only talk about functions. Okay, so this was the functionalist perspective. Next is symbolic interactionism. Here I said that we will look for impacts on an individual, or changes in changes in, this is or, okay, changes in individual behavior. Okay, or changes in norms, oblique values of society, or we will talk about the concept or term itself. Okay, this is symbolic interactionism. For example, in demonetization, what happened first is that people became digitally literate. Okay, due to digitalization, this was also due to digitalization. I already talked about digitalization from two angles. Here I am talking from the third angle, that people became digital literate. That people who were earlier, the people who were not having mobiles, they got mobiles, and these people they knew how to use mobile. They learned how to use mobiles, so they became digitally literate. Okay. Second is that the face-to-face interaction it decreased, and the interaction through online mode it increased. Electronic interaction between the people through electronic media increased. Okay. Third, the change in behavior is that uh, online marketing. So when the people they started using plastic money, the online marketing, that is the buying through e-commerce websites like Amazon, it increased. Okay. Fourth change is that when you have money in your electronic wallet, you have a tendency to buy more things, and when there is online buying, then the bargaining is not there. So there was a change uh, in the bargaining, from bargaining aspect, that now you can no longer bargain on e-commerce platforms. Okay. Then there was conspicuous consumption. Then I can say that people started using people started using online wallets like Paytm, PhonePay, Beam, Astra, more and more. There was use of by street vendors started using POS machines, Astra. Okay. Then we can say that how people view the, I already talked about in symbolic interaction. We will say that how people view using their mind, how people using their mind, how people view different things using their mind. For example, how people view cash. So the trust on cash decreased. So people trust on cash it decreased. People fear keeping their money in cash. So either they deposited it in banks, or they were not using the big currency cash. Okay. So trust on cash decreased. And second, the eighth number is that alienation. You can talk about alienation from the money. People were being alienated from their own money. Earlier, when they had cash, they can feel it, they can touch it, but now the money it was in numbers, just in numbers in electronic wallet. It simply mentioned that your account has 3,000, but they cannot touch this 3,000. It was just a number. So they were spending it, spending it more and more. Okay. Earlier when they had cash in hand, uh, they were not spending more, so the value of cash in hand it appeared to them more. But when it was in mobile, and then the people were more tilted toward buying more things, and they were being alienated from their own money. So these are some of the changes, impacts on individual from the perspective of symbolic interactionism. Okay. So let's talk about the next perspective, that is feminist perspective. Here you can say that we already know that the ratio of informal to formal workers is more for women as compared to men. Okay, that is, mm, women are more in informal sectors as compared to formal sector, but men are more in formal sector. Similarly, what this say that when the percentage of women in informal sector is more, okay, as compared to men, the percentage, okay, not the number. So it means that more women are dependent on cash, okay, more women were, because we are talking about that time, more women were dependent on cash. Because why? Because informal sector, in informal sector, cash is dominant, because the cash was the source of exchange, the cash was the source of payment in informal sector. So when the percentage of women in informal sector is more, it means that as compared to men, women were more dependent on cash. So when the cash was being attacked or targeted in demonetization, it directly impacted women in a disproportionate way as compared to men. Okay, here we are comparing men and women. Similarly, you can say that you can talk about data. I am not sure about it, but I have read somewhere that 80% of women are not, or were not, financially included. Okay, it means that 80% of the women did not have didn't have bank accounts. Okay, so it means that they were having cash. Okay, and that cash was hidden from male from men, because they were hiding their money from their, the poor women were hiding their money in cash from men, from their husbands, who could spend the on alcoholic consumption and etc. Without the women permission. So, and the other thing is that why 80% women don't have bank accounts. So the reason can be that women, even those women who have, sorry, even those women who have bank accounts, okay, those women who have bank accounts, their bank accounts are being run by men. Okay, women don't know how, most of the women, they are not educated, they don't know how to use a bank account, how to withdraw money, how to deposit money, and they are not allowed to visit the bank. So their accounts, even if their accounts are on their name, they are being practically operated by men, or so they take permission from men that when to withdraw, when to deposit. So they, even if they visit bank, then they visit with their husbands, or um, with their sons, that is with their male counterparts. Okay, they will visit the bank. So these women, they prefer to not open account, because if they will open account, then it means that they are dependent on men. And if they want independence, it means they will not open account. And if they will not open account, it means they are more dependent on cash, or they were more dependent on cash. And when the cash was targeted in demonetization, these women, they had to deposit their money in banks, and they had to, it means they had to open accounts. Those women who did not have account, they had to open accounts, and then they suffered. Okay, because when you have to open accounts, you need birth certificate, you need identity cards, you have to fulfill the KYC norms. Okay, so this is feminist perspective. We say that women were being impacted more as compared to men. Similarly, if we will talk about queer perspective, then you can say that the transgenders These transgenders, they don't have a birth certificate. There is an issue of identity. That is, there is identity crisis for them. They had to prove that they had to prove that they are transgenders. Okay, they had to prove, and the definition of transgender, i- definition of transgender is itself very debatable. Okay, and we have around 4.9 lakh transgender in India who suffered due to demonetization, because these transgenders they were also dependent on cash, because they were their percentage was more in informal sector. They are already in informal sector working as sex workers. Some are begging, some get cash from festivals, during festivals, in rich families or in horses, and they were purely dependent on cash. So when the cash was targeted in demonetization, they had to open accounts, and they could not open accounts. Their money was wasted because they could not prove that. Many of them could not prove that they are transgenders. Okay, so we already know that there is no the law, that there is still a bill, the transgender rights bill, but it has not become law. So there is no law, there is no regulation. Moreover, when they stand in the long lines outside the ATMs and they were being harassed, there were a number of cases when they were harassed by other people or by the officials. Okay, so in this way, if you are talking about writing from this perspective, then it means that you are looking at the topic demonetization from queer perspective. Similarly, if you will talk about elderly people, if you will talk about children, physically disabled person with disabilities, it means that you are talking about subaltern perspective. Okay, so I will be not talking about this. I will just mention. Similarly, if you are talking about from if you are talking from critical perspective, okay. So you will see that critical theories say that when the people were financially included, okay, when the people, because here we have to put all the blame on state, and here we will have to prove that individual, the citizen, is being exploited. Okay, so here we will show that when financial inclusion happened, people opened bank account. Bank accounts were linked with Aadhaar. So when Aadhaar linked with Aadhaar, it means that state is doing mass surveillance. Okay, mass surveillance under the curtain of financial inclusion. Okay, so when it is doing mass surveillance, it means that profiling of citizens is being done. Ethnic cleansing can be done. Okay, or you can use a term by Foucault. Foucault is a famous sociologist. Okay, you can use the term panopticon, that the state is creating a new type of panopticon, that is a modern prison for the people for doing surveillance. Okay, so these terms you can mention, and you can write from this perspective that surveillance is being done, or people using people data, they can be psychologically manipulated. You can manipulate people by giving them for example, the Cambridge Analytica scam. Okay, where the outcomes of elections were being influenced, that the people's voting behavior was being influenced by using their data. Okay, so voting behavior of people people can be influenced using their data. So this you can write. Okay, this is critical perspective. We have looked at demonetization from critical perspective. So these were some of the sociological perspectives on demonetization. uh, Let me check that. Okay, so second is COVID 19 impacts, or impacts of COVID 19. So we will see it from different sociological perspective. That is, what are the impacts of COVID 19? Okay, and we will be looking it from some of the mains perspective, because the video will become long, and people will get bored. Okay, so I will be keeping it short, because now I think I have made my point clear in the example of demonetization. So let's talk in brief about the Marxist perspective. Marxist perspective. I already mentioned that in Marxist perspective, you will say that capitalists are getting benefits, and poor are being exploited. A capitalist, you will put blame on capitalists. Okay, or capitalist, or you can say that capitalism itself. You can put blame on the one second. You can put blame on the capitalism, the system of economic production itself. So, for example, when we are talking about impacts of COVID-19 or COVID-19 itself, then say we are not talking simply about the impacts of COVID-19, or the question can come, right? Let's first write the question. Write on COVID-19, keeping sociological perspective in mind, or the question can be, uh, explain the, or discuss about the impacts of COVID-19, uh, keeping sociological perspective in mind. So I will be dealing with both these questions. So first is Marxist perspective. Let me go to the next slide. This is Marxist perspective. So what is Marxist perspective? I think I have made myself clear through the thumb rule that capitalists are getting benefits, or capitalists are the one who should be blamed. For example, you can say that due to COVID-19, one second. Okay, due to COVID-19, due to COVID-19, capitalists will benefit, or capitalists are the one who will benefit by, here you can say the capitalists are big pharma. You can say that by 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 manufacturing vaccines, okay, and then selling it at price of their choice. So the rich people here are getting benefit, and there is a conspiracy theory that the COVID-19, the disease, the corona, is itself the creation of some big pharma companies, so that they can sell their vaccines. Okay, so this is also a, this was also in news. So you can say that. Similarly, you can say that the cause of spread, the cause of spread or you can say that the blame of spread of COVID-19 is more on rich as compared to poor. Why? The poor cannot afford, traveling from one country to another. When the pandemic it it appeared in Wuhan, then you know that who are able to travel abroad, the rich people. So it means that the rich people, the upper class people who can travel abroad, they are the cause of the spread of corona. And they are cause, and who, if they are, COVID positive, they can get themselves treated in reputed hospitals, in private hospitals, and the poor, the poor are being suffering. The poor are suffering more as compared to rich, because the poor don't have money for treatment. They go to government hospitals, and these poor, when there is lockdown, then due to lockdown, the poor will also suffer more, because the daily wage workers, they will not get work. Okay, they will not have something to eat. So first, they are not getting work. Second, when the industries are being closed, and then their wages are reduced, or then they are becoming jobless. They are being fired. So they are being fired. Okay, so workers are being fired from companies. So in this way, the capitalists, they are getting benefits. One thing more is that what the government is doing is also, government is also helping in some way. Look, I am not saying this, so you should not be offended from this when I say that the government is helping. It's from Marxist perspective that Marxist people say this, or they, if they will be, you can say that if Marx will be alive, he would be saying this, or Marxists say this, and there's no denying in it. So that the government is helping, you know capitalists, or the rich people, are the owners of the factories. How? That you know that in number of states they made labor laws flexible. That is, labor laws were made flexible, so it helped rich people, the capitalists, and it was against this point, this policy was against laborers, because they could be really fired no when the labor laws were made flexible. Okay, so what government could have done, the government could have put the cash in the hands of the poor people, and this could have increased demand, but that was not being done. More focus was on making labor laws flexible. More focus was on giving taxation, tax holidays. So the more policies were oriented towards the benefit of the factory owners, industrial owners, startups, etc. Okay, and so this was being done. This is Marxist perspective. Okay, on COVID-19. You can make other points also, but I will be dealing briefly because already the video is uh, very long. Sorry. Second is functionalist perspective or structural functionalist perspective. I often forget to write structural. What were the some of the benefits or the functions of COVID-19? Look, we have to talk about functions. So in structural functions here, in previous video, in previous topic, that demonetization, I already only talked about functionalist perspective. Here I will be talking about functions and dysfunction. So I will be focusing on structural functionalist. Okay, so here I should also, I think, that differentiate between functionalist perspective and structural functionalist perspective. A functionalist perspective talk only about functions. Okay, for example, Parsons, Telker Parsons was a functionalist. But the structural functionalist, they talk about functions and dysfunctions, okay, and non-functions. So example is RK mutton, okay. These are structural functionalists, these are functionalists. So here I will be talking about structural functionalists, and they also, that talk about latent functions and latent dysfunctions, okay, and manifest functions and manifest dysfunctions. So I will be talking about this. Why I am talking about the term latent? Because the COVID-19 is a pandemic, okay. COVID-19 is a pandemic. So it is supposed to be dangerous, for the people, but it has some functions. So that why we will say that these are latent functions. These are not visible. These are invisible functions. Okay, latent is something that is invisible, that is deep, that you have to look deeper to get it. Okay, so this is kind of blessing in disguise. Why I will now write about it. Functionalist. First, I will talk about latent functions, or simply functions, or you can say that latent functions. If you're talking about functionalist perspective, you will simply talk about functions. If you're talking about structural functionalists, you will first talk about latent functions. What are the latent functions? First, for example, I will be dealing with it briefly. First, you can say that when there was lockdown, when there was lockdown, so people who earlier they were not spending time in family, they got time to spend in family. So familial values, they were strengthened once again. Okay, because people got time, parents got time to spend with their children. Okay, so it helped in better socialization of the children. So this was a function for the society as a whole. Similarly, you can say that the religious values, or religious values which were being degraded, and the act there was the social fact of secularization. It was being reversed, because when we say that COVID-19, we often talk about it as act of God. So when we talk about it as act of God, people's people's faith on religion increase. Okay, faith on God, it was strengthened. Okay, faith on God strengthened, and faith on science decreased when we compare it with religion. Okay, but science increased faith on science increased when we compare it with superstitions. In this time, people did not go for help from babas, okay, babas, saints, fakirs, etc. So superstitions, the faith and superstitions decreased, because people knew that these babas, they failed, they could not do anything, okay, against COVID-19. And the gobar, cow mutra, or gau mutra, or gobar, or other religious mantras, they didn't work, okay, on COVID-19. So faith on science increased. This is a function as compared to superstitions. And faith on God also increased, so religious values restored. Okay, if religious values are restored, it means solidarity among the communities increased during this time of pandemic. Okay, you can write this, so about solidarity with the help of religion. Similarly, the function, one other function is that the all debate about climate change was considered as something real. Earlier, many governments, including USA, they were saying that climate change is not real, but and they say that even if it's real, the developed world is ready. Okay, earlier they were saying that the developed world is ready, but now when COVID-19 happened and the developed world also suffered, they could not develop a vaccine, more people were dying there. So people started questioning the ability of the developed world to deal with the natural disasters, and climate change is also a natural disaster. So these developed worlds, somehow the people in the developed world, the citizens of the developed world, put pressure on the government, and they are still putting that climate change is real, and they are analyzing that whether they are being ready or not. Okay, analyzing whether they are being, pardon me for my handwriting, whether they are being ready for climate change or not. Okay, so what they are doing, they will know, it is expected that they will know put more effort in dealing with climate change. Another function is that international cooperation increased for development of vaccines. Okay, this is also a benefit. Then another function is that we got to know about the loopholes in WHO, loopholes regarding funding of WHO. Okay, so it means that now we have known that there are some loopholes regarding funding due to which WHO is becoming irrelevant. So we should do something. We have a chance now to reform WHO so that it becomes more and more relevant and up to date, so that these loopholes can be uh, blocked. Okay, we have come another function is that we have come to know that these NGOs, the civil society organizations, okay, the grassroots level uh, grassroots level organizations like panchayati raj institutions, etc. They have a bigger role to play during pandemics. Okay, no, we have learned that, and this is a function. Similarly, for example, this point of WHO's relevance, it can be linked. For example, when Durkheim talked about the functions of crime, he said that when crimes happen, we come to know about loopholes in laws, that what are the loopholes in laws, and then we reform those laws so that the crime can be controlled, and next time the crime can be dealt better. Okay, we can deal with the crime better in a better way. Similarly, here from that I have got the point that we have learnt about the loopholes in WHO, and next time we will be already okay. So this is another function. Similarly, we came to know about police. Okay, the loopholes in police and modernization of police happened. Okay, for example, we already know that police came with innovative ideas like in Madhya Pradesh, police uh, created a scheme, FIR, आपके Dwar Yojana. Okay, so police reformed itself. No police went door to door to people and for registering the FIR, because due to COVID, people were not able to come to police for registering FIR, but police went to people. So this was also a function, because police there was modernization in police, and if you can say that the crime, and that I will talk in dysfunctions. Okay, so enough of functions. Let's talk about dysfunctions. Dysfunctions. Okay. So when I am talking about functions in dysfunction, I am talking about for the whole society, not an individual. Okay. Though when we talk about individual, that is symbolic interactionism. So what are the dysfunctions for the whole society or whole the world? Protectionism increased. Okay, protectionism in relation to economy. Okay, not vaccine development. because the countries they stopped trading with other countries, stopped trading with other countries like with China, or other stopped airlines. Okay. Second is that it means that there was a trend of deglobalization. Okay, so means the globalization, the trade was impacted. This is also dysfunction. Another dysfunction is that the crime, the criminals, the or there was change in criminal behavior. Okay, criminal behavior. So this you can talk in symbolic interaction itself. Okay, you can talk about this in symbolic interaction itself. Since I will not be dealing much with symbolic interaction, so I am dealing with crime here in these functions. For example, the domestic crime against women increased. This you can also write in feminist perspective. The cyber crimes in COVID-19 increased. So, uh, and the life loss, etc. They you can talk about those. And the economic loss, you can talk about those. These are the dysfunction. You know the impact on GDP, etc. Okay, the economy, GDP was dropped by -23%, etc. So this was brief about functions and dysfunctions. Let's talk about no. We talk about Marxist. Let's talk about symbolic interaction itself. Symbolic interactionism. Okay. Here I already mentioned one point in dysfunction that the nature of crime changed, or the behavior of criminals changed, because they became more organized. They started operating in cyber area. Okay, the cyber crimes increased and domestic crimes against the increase. Second is there was change in norms. Okay, what norms? Like there was talk of physical distancing. People now started keeping distance of at least 2 feet. There was change in etiquette. Okay, no people when they were sneezing, they were putting their elbow or hand in front of their nose or mouth. So this was change in etiquette. Okay, they were using masks. Then other is that shaking hand was forbidden. Shaking hand, people stopped shaking hand. Okay, there was lesser event of shaking hand, and alternative norms appeared. Alternative norms appeared. Alternative norms like in Wuhan, there is a concept of Wuhan shake, where people shake their feet or their legs. Okay, um, people went for namaste. People went for Vulcan salute. This is a salute from the character Vulcan in Star Wars. Okay, so people were using these methods: Wuhan shake, Namaste, Vulcan salute, etc. So there was a change in norms and etiquettes. And so here I have talked about etiquettes and norms and physical distance. You etiquettes, you can say that the symbolic interactionist. I already said that they talk about gestures, hand gestures, they talk about language, etc. So here I have mentioned about gestures. Okay, these Wuhan shake, etc. These are nothing but gestures. So these were the impacts on individual. Similarly, if we talk about feminist perspective, feminist perspective. Now I will be dealing very briefly. For example, in feminist perspective, we can talk about positive also, we can talk about negative also, but feminists mostly talk about negative. So the positive effects on women you can write in functionalist perspective. Okay, because I forget to write that in functionalist perspective. You can write there under functionalist perspective. You can write. I will mention like when there was a concept of work from home, it means that women can no work from home, because if women will work from home, there is no issue of sexual harassment at work. Okay, there is no issue of sexual harassment during travel. There is no need to go outside house. So women of the orthodox sects like women in Islam, they will not be forbidden because they can work in home. Earlier, they could not go outside their houses in Orthodox families, and they were being forbidden from work because they had to go outside their houses, or they were now when there is the concept of online education. So there will be this in the era of online education that is about to begin, in the era of work from home that is about to begin, and that is already that has started at certain level. Women will be allowed to educate themselves to work because they can do this from their home. Okay, from their home. There will be no sexual issue of sexual harassment. They need not go outside their house. There is no issue of threat, etc., security of women, etc., when they do this from home. So these are some of the positive effects on women. Okay, so but feminist will talk about negative effects. For example, similarly, this work from home concept. So if women are to work from home, or if we talk about online education, say there is a poor say there is a poor household, or in poor households, what will happen if there is only one computer or one mobile? Who will be preferred here? The male child will be preferred over the female child. So what I have done here, I have compared male and female. Okay, so in one host, when I am comparing, I already said that in feminist perspective, we compared men and women, or male and female. Here I have compared a male child with female child. So female child will be given less preference, and male child will be given preference. So it means that there will be issue of exploitation of women. Second, we already talked about crime. Here we can see that when people the husbands, when the men, they got time, I can say that lockdown happened. Okay, due to lockdown, husbands stayed for much of their time in home, in houses, and so the issue of domestic violence increased, and the domestic violence will also is increased because husbands the working class, they could not drink alcohol, due to COVID-19. Bars were closed. Okay, so when they could not drink alcohol, it means they had violent tendencies. The domestic violence also increased due to this. And the alcohol is not a necessary, alcohol ban is not necessary for domestic violence. It can happen independently. When husbands got more in home, they had more issues with their wives, and there was issue of domestic violence. And moreover, when there was COVID-19, there was lockdown due to this. Women could not go to uh, police station for FIR. So again, the cases went underreported. Okay, so whatever cases, whatever data we have, that is also underreported. Moreover, the pregnant women, we heard from news that many pregnant women, they died because they could not go to hospitals. There were no uh, there was no service of ambulance during earlier period of lockdown. So many women, pregnant women, they died. You will come to know about this in news. You might have read that those news, okay, or many did not go to hospital deliberately because there was a fear of hospitals. Okay, there was fear of hospitals because most of the hospitals they were declared as COVID-19 hospitals, and the people had a fear that when they will go to hospitals and they will become COVID positive, and that's it. Okay, so rural women or the working women of rural areas, their labor was impacted because they could not get work. ठीक है, earlier they were working as domestic help in urban areas, so they had to return back to their home. They were dealing with milk production, selling. They were earlier selling milk, so this was impacted. Okay, so these there was impact on rural women because they could not get work. Okay, so this was disproportionately more on women as compared to men. Similarly, when we will talk about queer perspective, it will be on transgenders, LGBTQ, and when they are not registered, it means that whatever state is doing, like Pradhan Mantri Garib Rozgar Yojana, so transgender were not getting benefits because they were not registered under any government scheme. So government could not identify where and how much LGBTQs or the transgenders are living, so they could not get ration, free ration from fair price shops. So these were some of the impacts. So I think that I have discussed enough on the perspective, on sociological perspective. If you still have any doubt, you can mention that in comment section, or you can mention that in my Telegram group. So next is some homework what I can give you so that you can think on that, so that you can write on that. So first is GST. You should try to point out different points under various perspective. You should write Marxist perspective, functionalist on GST. Second, vaccine nationalism. Okay. uh, First, second, third. So let me think. Mhm. Okay, these two are. I think that these will be enough. You should write on them from any perspective. Third, you can take any government scheme like सबका साथ, सबका विकास. The question can come in this way, that write about sabka saath sabka vikas from keeping sociological perspective in mind. Okay, so any scheme you can write about, any government scheme, whatever you like Pradhan Manreka. Okay, this is good. Manreka, Manreka, right? The about Manreka scheme.